Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time it is that you're watching this video. My name is Fit from Fit to Trade. Thank you for stopping by this YouTube channel. As always, I really appreciate your time. With everything fighting for everyone's attention nowadays, the fact that you're on this video and giving me your time means a lot. So thank you, first of all. We're going to chat about the second episode in the psychology series for prop firm traders. So, gap in the market of psychology when it comes to trading, specifically in the prop firm space. And so we're going to try and explore that over the next 10 weeks with a 10 episode series on psychology and how it relates directly to prop firm challenges. So hopefully it will help. If you do find any gems from this that will help elevate your trading, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting on the video. It really does help the algorithm out. But without further ado, let's get into your brain running out of willpower, how ego depletion and decision fatigue in prop firm trading really negatively affects the way that you trade. And we're also going to talk about why your best setups always seem to appear after your worst decisions. So as always, we want to use peer-reviewed articles and data to back up all of this. We don't just want to make inferences and assumptions without the evidence to back this up. So let's get into it, guys. So it's 2:30 p.m. You've been at the screen since 8 a.m. You've waited all day for your setup. It finally appears. You either hesitate, you second guess, or you take a subpar entry, or you skip it entirely. And this isn't a skill problem. It's your brain running out of fuel. Let's dive into this. So Baumeister's Radish experiment, and all of these peer-reviewed articles are going to be linked at the end if you want to have a read yourself. But basically, participants were asked to eat radishes and then resist the chocolate placed in front of them on a table. So they had to use self-control by not eating the chocolate that was placed to them. And group B basically had the ability to eat the chocolates with no radishes or no other hindrances placed before them. So no self-control required. Then both groups were actually given unsolvable puzzles that they had to do. There's no answer to them. They just had to try and solve it. So group A, after already using some mental capacity to eat the radishes and resist the chocolate, gave up after 8 minutes, compared to group B, who did the same puzzles, but they actually persisted for 19 minutes. So that's 2.4x times the amount of mental capacity. And so we recognize that self-control is actually something that we have a limited amount of. And that's why, again, going back to the first example, the longer that you are on the charts, the more you're depleting that resource and you need to replenish it. Let's jump into the next bit of data. Basically, we had the strength model of self-control by Hagar et al. And they found that ego depletion is the state in which a person's self-control and willpower resources have been reduced by prior use. When depleted, the ability to regulate behavior, make quality decisions, and resist impulse is measurably impaired. So basically, they found four main conclusions. So there's impaired decision quality, which we've just talked about. There's actually risk-seeking behavior, which links into the previous study. So depleted individuals take larger risks to generate stimulation. This directly explains late session oversizing. So because it's depleted, not only are you not making the right decisions in terms of your own system, but you're actually going to compound that by taking bigger risks. And I notice this in myself as well. If I'm sitting on the charts for way too long, all of a sudden I'm sizing up more than I had planned because you feel like, oh, I missed that trade. I missed this trade. There was that opportunity. Let me just bring it all back in this one trade to compensate. But again, it's that depletion of the self-control and regulatory response, which is making you do that. Next, increased impulsivity, similar as the risk-seeking behavior. And then default mode engagement. So when the prefrontal cortex fatigues, the brain falls back on habit and emotional response rather than deliberate analysis. And hence why your rules get broken automatically. So again, like the previous episode, it's actually your brain wiring and what's going on here that's actually impacting your decisions. Again, it's not just you being dumb and reckless. It's your body actually saying, hey, look, I'm actually fatigued. I'm tired. I'm going into overdrive mode here. So this is a super interesting study that I would highly recommend you guys have a look at. Basically wanted to look at the percentage of hearings from judges that were granted parole and the percentages of those that were denied. And it's so interesting. If in the first 3 sessions, The judge just arrives to the stands. It's the first three sessions. 65% of parole requests were approved. They've labeled this as, okay, you got a fresh brain, you're favorable, nuanced thinking, you're not tired. But they found that towards the end of the session, so if it was the last three, 0% of parole requests were approved. Obviously, you got a depleted brain, defaults to the safe, easy option of just deny the parole. I don't want my brain to work and figure out whether this person deserves it or not. Just deny the parole and it's safer for the community. I'm not going to get any backlash, which is so interesting. The judges did not become less intelligent or less ethical over time. They became cognitively depleted, and their depleted brain defaulted to the easiest option available. Late in the session is to take a subpar setup or to revenge trade after a loss, rather than continue the disciplined filtering that good trading requires. And so that's why typically when you're blowing up accounts, it's usually at the very end of a session, similar to what we're seeing here. At the start of your session, you're making probably about 65% of the right decisions, like we're seeing here too. You filter out, you can walk away if it's too early in the session. But the longer you're there at the charts, the more higher risk of absolutely blowing your account goes. The prop firm challenge is a depletion machine. So normal trading is cognitively demanding. Now challenges stack multiple additional depletion sources on top. So you've obviously got your setup for the eval phase. So you've got an eval and then you got to pass that and then you're funded. And before you get your payouts, you got your amount of time. So all of these is depleting every single day. You've got to use that fatigue to think, okay, where am I? Your reference points as well. You've got to keep that in mind and constantly keep changing that. All of that is depleting all of that mental capital. Then you're monitoring your challenge rules. So your drawdown, your current P&L, consistency rules, all of that stuff, depleting you again. You're suppressing your emotional responses. So obviously you've got to keep yourself in tune, but by doing that, you're also depleting that resource that you have of limited availability. DeVos et al. In 2008 found that suppressing emotional reactions is one of the most depleting self-regulatory activities. Every near miss, every loss, every tempting but invalid setup requires active suppression. You're using that more and more. Waiting and sustained attention. So obviously you've got to wait for the right setups if you're trading properly. And then post-trade analysis in real time. So reviewing the last trade, adjusting your read on the market, recalibrating your plan, all while the next potential setup is forming. It's huge cognitive load that your brain is taking on. And so bottom line is the longer that you're at the charts, the more you're using this mental capital. Let's jump into how we can address that specifically for prop firms. So here is how it actually looks down in a bit of a graph. So early in the session, your window should be from 0 to 2 hours, with breaks as well involved, which we'll get into in a bit. Post that 2-hour period, you start shortcutting the sort of checklists that you have. You're still functioning, but the margin of error is now increasing. So you're allowing more error to come through. If you have the charts for 4+ hours, this is when you're in the dangerous territory zone. Default mode engages impulsive trades that feel right because you've been waiting for so long now start to be more valid. Rules that you would never break an hour ago or 2 hours ago, you're starting to justify. I've been here for so long, and that's when the downhill slope starts. And then post that is where everything just compounds. What we spoke about from last session, loss aversion, you're probably taking a few losses if you're still at the charts. Rather than walking away, you're trying to get that back. And this is where accounts get blown. So if you can keep your trading session between that 0 to 2 hour window max, plus with breaks, I think that's going to be the optimum and what I'm going to try and employ as well. So my live streams, I don't want them to go over 2 hours max. That's my cap. So every decision you make costs something. So this is another study with all of these scientists coming in. So Vos and colleagues ran a series of experiments in which participants either made a large number of choices or small number before completing a subsequent self-control task. Participants who had more prior choices showed significantly worse self-control performance on the follow-up task, regardless of how trivial the earlier choices appeared. So it doesn't matter how small that decision and that choice is. The more of them you do, the more you're depleting that resource. So in a 4-hour trading session, this is typically the amount of decisions that you're going to make in 4 hours if you're sitting at the charts. So you're suppressing emotional responses all the time. You're constantly checking your daily drawdown, your profit targets, your consistency as well. You've got to keep that running in your mind. Your setup evals, does this make sense? And then your risk decisions. How much am I going to risk? Where am I putting my stop? All of these are micro decisions that you're making during every single setup, depleting that resource. It's interesting though that self-control works like a muscle. So if you're just recognizing this like me, you probably have a very weak muscle when it comes to self-control. Beautiful thing is you can actually work on this, but have a look at the order in which we're going to work in. The muscle fatigues with use. That's with your trading, your decision making, but you recover with rest. So break, sleep, and stopping the session early are not weakness. This is actually a form of recovery. So similar to like going to the gym, you can't just be blitzing the same muscle for 2 hours. You're just going to absolutely cook yourself. But if you take breaks, rests in between your sets, and then take full days off. So if you do an arm day, give it a day or two rest, and then come back and do that same arm day, all of a sudden that muscle's stronger, you're able to lift more weight, and over time, that's when you're building up big muscles. So again, it's trainable over time. So experienced traders have larger capacity, but the resource is still finite in any given session. So even anyone that you can see is absolutely jacked, huge arms, they still have a level of fatigue that once they reach, their muscle can't do anymore. So no one is exempt from this. You're still going to reach a point where you get into that orange and red dangerous territory. So keeping that in mind. And then also remembering that your muscles fatigue faster under stress. So if you don't get a good night's sleep before you go to the gym, all of a sudden you're not lifting the weight that you could after a good night's sleep. Compound that with if you got things already occupying your mind, it's significantly going to reduce that fatigue. So it's really important that you take each day as its own new day and you assess yourself at the start of each session. How am I feeling today? What has happened prior? Do I have the mental capacity to trade right now? And if I don't, again, it's not weakness to walk away from the charts. That's something that I need to work on myself. I feel like I have to prove myself. I have to just push through. I have to push on. Like don't be don't be weak. Just get on with it. But reality is, if I'm taking that same mentality to the gym, I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to hurt my accounts if I continue to do that. So same act of self-control that makes trading discipline is the act that erodes the capacity to remain disciplined. It's a catch-22. The uncomfortable truth is the longer that you trade each day, the worse your decisions become. Not because you're getting lazier, because the biology is working exactly as it should, and you have not accounted for it. And that's important that this is what is supposed to happen. Our brains can't function non-stop running over and over. And so the actual act of you blowing your account and you not being able to trade anymore is actually in a way your body telling yourself, I can't do any more of this. I need to blow this account so that you stop using this mental capacity. Otherwise, we're going to go insane. So if you think about it, it's actually a protective mechanism that you go and deplete all of your resources. Okay, I can't trade anymore. My brain needs to rest. So what most traders believe, if I just try harder and stay more focused in the afternoon, I'll trade better. The result is they try harder, they deplete even faster and make worse decisions than if they had stopped earlier. The research shows that quality over quantity is super important. A trader who executes 3 setups from a fresh cognitive state outperforms a trader who executes 12 steps from a depleted state. Trading is not laziness, it's actually better performance management. So here's what we can actually implement into our prop firm trading sessions to have better results in the long term. The goal is not to willpower your way through depletion, it's to architect your session so depletion becomes irrelevant again. So having a hard stop time and treat it as non-negotiable, I think that's super important. So for me now, that's going to be 2 hours. So once 2 hours is hit, I am off the charts. That is already too much time. If I can hit my trade or my targets before then, I'm done. I don't need to come back. You make as many decisions as possible before the session opens up. So already define how much you're going to risk per trade, how many trades you're going to take. For me, that's 3 trades now. So I'm not taking any more than 3 trades per session. And it's not going to last more than 2 hours. All of this is pre-decided, so I don't have to take the mental capacity to think about it. So we're going to have a genuine mid-session break. So after an hour, I'm going to take 15 minutes off the charts. If I'm already in a position, stops go to break even, and I'm just taking that break. That's going to help me come back to make better decisions. Just take a break even day. But having that session is going to prevent me from blowing the account. The last thing that I want, if I can just prevent myself from getting to that period where I've got the decision fatigue and loss aversion, I'm trying to win stuff back. If I can just prevent myself getting there, that's a win. I don't care whether I'm green or red on the P&L, but if I can prevent myself and obviously managing my risk, I should never have a day where I'm blowing up, and then set a maximum trade count, so not just a time limit. So again, compounding all of these rules into your next trading session and sticking to that, it's really hard, but what you can do on Top Step X as well is that you can actually have a maximum trades that you do unlock yourself out, so you can't change that. And that's what I want to try and implement each session from now on as well. So the bottom line is self-control is a finite resource. Every decision you make in a session draws from it. A prop firm challenge is specifically structured to maximize the number of decisions you make. It's crazy how they use that psychology against you. The judges, again, in that study did not become bad judges. They became depleted judges. So you don't need to be a bad trader in the afternoon. That's not what you become. You just become a depleted one. The reality is you just need to recognize, well, I just need rest in this situation. I don't need to try harder. I actually just need to get off the chart. So that's why when people that are funded and are making a lot of money are saying, all right, I'm done for the day, I'm hopping off, I used to always think, like, why not just get it back? Like, why are you giving up? I say, but it's not giving up, it's resting and recharging. That's the way I need to reframe it. Again, the solution is not discipline. It's not a matter of, oh, I just need to be better. I just need to willpower my way through. That's architecture. So pre-make decisions, set hard limits, build in recovery, and trade less from a better state. In the next episode, we're going to talk about stop beating yourself up, the science of self-compassion after drawdown, and how much that impacts you actually getting your accounts back. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode. Take care, guys. Peace.